Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. My name is David Okun. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We have been talking about Brexit. We have been linking Brexit with the cost of living crisis, which is now global. Whether you live in Europe, whether you live in Africa, whether you live in the developing country or the developed countries, whether you are in the Middle East, wherever you are, you indirectly or directly suffering from the cost of living. And that's what I've been talking about throughout this program. And that is what I will be talking about. I'll be talking about different topics and linking different topics with the cost of living. I would say if you want to solve a problem, you need to know the problem to understand it. That's why I'm trying to explain what the cost of living is. And there are a lot of people, especially in the developed world, perhaps also in the developing world, who believe the government is there to help them, uh, which is what we would all expect from the government, in the sense that the government, when it helps people who need help from the government, provide rights to those individuals through the law and government policy. And that's how you acquire rights or for accessing help from the government. But for those who are interested, you need to understand that the government is now changing its attitude, and instead of talking about rights, they are talking about responsibilities. The difference between rights and responsibilities in terms of the state is that responsibility means the government is not helping you anymore. We have seen this in Africa, where the welfare system is quite limited, and in the UK, where we are now changing the system from the past when the state still help people who need help from the government. The people who need help from the government are the majority in any government, whether developed, especially developed world. They're needing help with income. Income, the main source of income, is from employment. The primary source of income as an alternative to employment or self-employment, so to speak, is something in the developed world called welfare benefit. Welfare benefit is a form of money given to people who live in a country. Welfare benefit is not in Africa less likely to be available in the developing world. And welfare in the developing world is normally associated with family. It's something you could call family welfare system, where family and friends help people who need help. A welfare state, such as the government giving money, is restricted to pensions in Africa, and the structure of pension in the countries of Africa, especially Africa, but also the developing world. Pension is a source of income, also as a source of welfare benefit. Pension is given to people who have worked. In other words, in the equivalence of the UK, in the to provide an equivalence in a country like Britain, you would be talking about state pension, and there are different types of pension in the UK. And the state pension is the primary one. It's a statutory providing right for people who have worked in Britain, in the UK, and for people who have worked, the law having changed. I think in 2018, people having worked for 10 years minimum will get a lower level of state pension. But if you work to get a maximum pension in Britain, you need to have worked 35 years in total. These are actually an example of welfare state benefit, state pension in Britain. And in the developing world like Africa, you need to have worked. the same with what we have in the UK, but more than what we will find in, say, the developing world in Africa, in the UK, and perhaps in most developed world. Pensions, let's say in the UK, you have pension credit for those who did not work at all. If you don't qualify for state pension, you get pension credit, but you can also get work pension in addition to state pension. Work pension is given by employers, and also private pension, which you can actually get from the market in terms of pension. These are different types of pension, source of income. They are actually a form of welfare benefit. And normally, when you talk about pension, welfare benefit in the developed world like Britain, people think you're talking about when you don't work, you get some welfare benefit. But in the UK, welfare benefits come in all shapes and sizes. In other parts of the world, say perhaps also America, more and more employers, private companies are now giving welfare benefit. And a lot of it are actually supported by the government. Like in the UK, the energy company like gas and electricity and water utility companies can give welfare benefit in terms of grants to those who are struggling to pay rent or who are in debt. But this I will actually talk about. I will be talking about this later on. I've actually chosen to provide a broader background to the cost of living. So that's why I'm looking at the European Union. The European Union created a political and economic crisis in Britain and across the globe, and in so doing, it actually contributed significantly to the cost of living crisis as we now know it. Remember, the theme of this program so far is the cost of living, and the reason I actually choose different topics is to actually provide an integrated understanding of the problem. And I already said, to repeat the point, that it's really important for the people of the world to understand the way the state work, and also to understand policy and programs associated with policies. Because if you don't understand it, you're going to be in trouble. A lot of people now are in trouble in the UK, around the world. There is a lot of problem to do with income, to do with poverty, and it's not going to go anywhere. So it's really, really important for people to take this. You have to be responsible for your life. We used to depend on the state because the state was actually responsible for us, especially if you're poor. And already in the other videos, I've tried to explain what poverty is. If you need to work for a living as of necessity, then you're poor. Because once you lose your job, then you fall into a crisis straight away. If you face the problem of low pay, such as involving the minimum wage in the UK, you get into trouble with the problem of income. At the core of the cost of living, which is a global crisis, actually is income. I've said this over and over and over, and I will be repeating the points so that people really are aware, because awareness is the beginning of. See, what we see in the modern society now is about surviving. If you cannot survive, you're going to be in serious trouble, because a lot of young people are now committing suicide. A lot of adults are actually considering committing suicide. People are in shock. We used to think the government was there for us from cradle to grave, when we were born, through life to the end, including employment. We used to believe, to thinking that the government was going to support us with employment when we were born, when we live our lives, supporting ourselves and also supporting our families. That was, the government was taking responsibilities for us. Now the government have changed and want us to take responsibility for our life. Put it another way, the government is no longer looking after us. Whatever is left is part of the transition from the time when the government was looking after us. The government was responsible for us. We had the rights through law and policy to enjoy that right. And now we have responsibility for our lives. The government now is responsible for itself. And the problem with this state of affairs, politically, but also in terms of society, is that we operate a economic and political system called capitalism. And capitalism underpins, I mean, it actually features a lot of inequalities. There's a lot of inequalities under capitalism. There are the minority who are wealthy have more rights because they have money and they don't suffer the cost of living as a crisis. There are, and even if the government levy tax on the wealthy, the effect of taxation doesn't really, they don't feel it because they have a lot of money. And normally the effect of tax is on the poor people, people who are on low income. Even if you work, and people who work harder than anybody else are actually people who are low income, poor people. I know people don't like being seen as being poor, especially in a rich country like Britain. Britain is the sixth richest country in the world. And to kind of like understand, to see that there are so many, I mean, to describe the British people as poor is an insult. But that's the reality, as we have seen with the cost of living crisis. People are struggling now to buy food and energy. People are struggling now to pay for energy, to pay for publicly the cost, to meet the cost of transport. There are other changes which are actually more organic, involving healthcare. We are now in a situation where we can no longer access healthcare because the health system is closing down on people who are not rich. There is going to be a problem where people will not really get anything if it doesn't change, if the situation doesn't, if capitalism doesn't change. The way capitalism is operated now, there is real risk that 90% of the population in Britain and around the world, 90% are going to be excluded from everything. You're going to be excluded from healthcare facilities. You know, you can't go to the hospital because there will be no hospital unless you are rich. You can't get food in Britain or any other country unless you are rich, because more and more the economy is closing down. The economy is closing down, and that is what monetary system means. Monetary policy. It means close down the economy for the many and only leave enough for the rich. And that is what the policy to control inflation in Britain, to control inflation anywhere in the world under capitalism, under the market economic system. What it actually means is close down the economy and don't produce anything unless somebody has money to buy. And nobody has money except the rich. Because if the economy shuts down the way it is closing down, because the government is the one who can actually maintain the economy. If the government is shutting down as it does, handing over the country to the private sector, that's what is happening. The economy and the country is being handed over to the private sector, to private individuals who are rich. These people will close down the economy totally because they don't need it. Why should a private person, individual, run a business he doesn't need? I mean, a rich person only run the economy through running a business if he needs the business, and if he can sell maybe one car for 0.5 million, for 0.5 billion pounds or dollar to just one person, or if he can sell a private jet to just one person for maybe 1 billion pounds, why bother making aeroplane for public transport? Maybe for 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people, or millions of people. Why do you waste your money? That is the behavior of the market. Everyone for himself, good for us all. And this is the direction of travel with capitalism. This is where we're going with the market economic system. Wealthy people will build wealth for themselves and exclude maybe 90 or even more percent of the population, which means the majority of the population will be excluded from the world resources, which means you won't have any, you will be homeless, countryless, everything. If you're poor, and which is now what we now see, if you work for a living now, the middle class, you may still not feel poverty. Even the working class, people on minimum wage may not feel poverty, because a lot of them are young people who are not really bothered so much about money. If you can buy food, you can pay for your energy, you can get access, medicine. People are not bothered too much about money in this country because the government is still providing public service. But public service is closing down. That's why I'm talking. It's not going to be there because the government is now saying you should be responsible for your life. But you should be responsible for your life. How are you going to do that? You don't have money. You depend on employment. You don't have wealth. Only those who have wealth, multimillionaires and multi-billionaires, are the ones who are going to inherit the earth. The rest are going to be excluded totally. You won't have food. You won't have medicine. You won't have anything. You're going to be homeless. You're going to be jobless. You're going to be penniless. Penniless means you don't have money. And you're going to be lifeless. Means you're going to die. Unless the system changes. The system cannot change unless we change culturally. I've actually brought forward this proposition of cultural economy in the early stages of my posting of these videos. I've talked about cultural economy, how we learn, how we implement our learning, our personalities, character, whether we are good or bad, whether we are kind or cruel, whether we're peaceful or violent. And I've argued there, and I keep on repeating the same point over and over, that there are two dimensions to progress. There is development and there is culture. So development is about money and wealth. about material things. Culture is about us as people, our attitude. Do we want war or peace, with or without money? The reason somebody find it necessary to rule over somebody else, that is proof that we, the people, are interested in war and we're not interested in peace. And that is the source, the primary source of the every problem actually stems from human condition of not understanding how to live peacefully. If we don't correct that, whether you're poor or rich, we have a responsibility. We have a duty to our life. I have actually mentioned somewhere, I think you have seen recently, things like artificial intelligence, AI, and other technological progress which has happened. And there are a lot of research now happening to try and stop aging, or slow it down, or stop it, or reverse it. Aging is the number one killer of humanity. The moment you conceive, the moment you are conceived in the womb, you start dying. You get a passport to the grave the moment you come out of your mother's womb. As soon as you're born, you're given a genetical certificate of death. Death certificate is given genetically. You start the process of growth. When you peak, you begin to degenerate until you die. You are actually destined to die. But some scientists, perhaps fundamentalists, fundamental in the fundamental sense, there is a scientific information now saying humans are not designed to die of aging. No. Humans are not designed to aging. They are not supposed to age. People age by mistake. The body malfunctions. That's why it ages. So as it ages, it dies. So now, this is now a scientific principle. They are now doing research. I don't have the details. I haven't really done a study. I mean, I watched it on the TV. Saw it on the media. You can probably read about it somewhere. Maybe if I find an opportunity, I will talk about it on this video about the concept of aging and what scientists are trying to do to slow aging down, to stop aging or to reverse it. This means if it is slowed down or stopped altogether, people will stop growing old and they will stop dying of aging. And that will leave other aspects like diseases. But with technology also, we hopefully will get rid of diseases. Potentially, if this happens, if we stop aging, if we produce something called regeneration. Regeneration is the opposite of aging. Aging is degeneration. We degenerate through aging, through diseases, and through other defects. If we get a motor accident, our body stops in shock and we die. If we can stop that, if we can stop all that, then we can stop death. The reason I'm talking about death, because because we live in a time life. Our life is not timeless. We live within time. We don't live within eternity. We don't live forever. So, if science can solve the issue of death or mortality, then we are left to solve the problem of violence. Because immortality, when we live forever, we don't die. Or if those who die can be brought back, as in regeneration, they are brought back from the dead, as in regeneration. We used to hear this from religious studies. But now, potentially, it could be a scientific information. Think about it. So, what will be the main problem if we can stop death? We can reverse death even. Like you watch in science fiction in movies where people are regenerated, people are brought back into life. What we are left with then is going to be about peace, because you see the quality of life. If we can live pain free, physical pain, emotional pain, psychological pain, if we can live pain free, then we are going to be happy. You see, because you see, if you look at your life, if you look at the environment, if you look at the world is so beautiful. The world is sunny. There is sunshine. Even the snow, even if it is very cold, it will look beautiful. If we can actually control environment to adapt, to live comfortably, we have enough food, we have enough energy, we have enough water. We live in comfort. With technology, we can get whatever we want. Clothing, airplane, we can travel anywhere we want. We can go on. Every day is a holiday. I believe with technology and science, we can achieve that. And I think we will actually achieve that. That doesn't guarantee our happiness, because our happiness comes from us. You see? And normally when we live together, when we are together, we are strong. Yeah, see? If we have means of managing health, food, resources like that, comfort, like you sleep in a nice bed, you sit in a nice chair, you live in a nice house, then you live a healthy life. The most important thing, perhaps, in terms of survival, in terms of functioning as a human being, is health. I mean, if you don't feel sick, you are healthy. You don't feel physical pain. You don't cry. You don't feel emotional, because you're healthy. But if you believe in yourself, you believe in people, you live with other people. We say unity is strength. If people are united, they can achieve everything, anything they want. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, they will achieve it if they unite. And as humans, we are the best. If you think about us, we are the best. We are good looking. You see, we are so capable. We are not the size of elephants, but we are smart. We are so clever. We smile, we laugh, we cry. We are amazing as humans. If you want to look at a creature and admire a creature, we take our lives for granted. We abuse our lives. We treat our bodies, our lives, as if it is nothing. We are the best. There is nothing. Humans are wholesome. Human species is wholesome. We come so far. We have reached the moon. We have reached the skies. We are the best. We need to believe in ourselves and be the best. You see, we need to respect ourselves, respect other people. See, if we care about ourselves, we begin to care about other people. That is called value, human value. What do you believe in? See, if you find a child suffering, do you stop to help a child? That is value. Or you just pass on by. If you find a poor, I mean, like in Britain, I live in the UK. If we live in the UK, and we are the sixth richest country, we are number 6 in wealth, which means that Britain is one of the richest countries on earth. Everywhere, almost everywhere, there is wealth. If you have money, if you are multimillionaire, you are multi-billionaire, and you hear that there are people sleeping rough on the street, living in poverty, people cannot access food. They go to something called food bank in the UK. It's humiliation. It's inhumane. You have no respect for yourself. If you're a multimillionaire, you're a multi-billionaire, you should be ashamed of yourself. Oh, some people will say, oh, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Yes, there is everything to be ashamed of. If you have the means, if you are in government, you have been elected, you are in government, you have the means to bring change, and you fail to bring change for political reasons, you should be ashamed of yourself. Because you have lost your way. You have lost any sense of value, human value. And that is extremely important. It makes the difference between peace and war. And which is actually our aspirations to live in a society of peace. Peace makes us happy. You see, it makes us happy as human beings. And if you think about getting up early in the morning, you think about going to school, going to work, building a house for yourself or for other people. Everything you do, everything you don't do, you go to bed to sleep, to relax, go to the beach, to party. You want one thing, happiness. You want to be happy. And that's why we are looking for peace. We talk about peace. We have set up states. We have set up government. This is a cultural argument to provide a basis, the ingredient we need for cultural progress. Everything I'm talking about, the human factor affecting progress. We have done very well on the front of technology. Technology, in terms of development. Development provided material progress. We are so rich as a country, which is a good thing. And capitalism as a system is the best way of creating wealth. But so, it's any system can create wealth. Because all you need is actually people working hard and managing the wealth. Whether it is capitalism or something else. It doesn't matter. You can create wealth without a system. A system is for rule, mainly. Rule is wrong. If you want to know that we are in trouble, look at the government. We are not supposed to have a government. In any country, we are not supposed to have a government. The fact that we have a government means culturally we are in trouble. We need to learn to live properly, to live peacefully, to respect, to aim to live peacefully. Peace is so important. If we achieve peace, then we are going to be happy. If we achieve peace, if we achieve human enlightenment and material excellence, then we are going to do well. We are going to be happy because there will be peace, there will be wealth with peace. Because you can be wealthy and sad. I don't know if you can be poor and happy, but it seems to me that poverty is closely associated with sadness. But you see, it's intriguing to realize that you can be wealthy and sad. Ordinarily, we should have been sufficient with wealth. Wealth should have equated to peace. But that is not the case. We still need to learn to be happy. And the roadmap to happiness is peace. And the roadmap to peace is really valuing our lives and valuing the life of other people, working together. Appreciating who we are as people, acknowledging the resources, the human resources that we are, the self-sufficiency we possess, the potential for our capabilities, including, like I said from the beginning, using technology, using medicine to achieve greatness. I've been talking for about going to now 40 minutes. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. If you don't value it, even you can still subscribe. It's very easy to subscribe. You don't need to register your name. You just click a button. It's the easiest thing to do is subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll be supporting this channel. We are 5 months into the program, and this channel was set up in 2012, and it has been without any activity. There hasn't been any activity. We started operating 5 months ago, last year in December. So we're going to need a lot of support to keep talking about what needs to be talked about. And it doesn't matter what you want to do with your life. You want to go to school, you want to work, it doesn't matter. You want to go on holiday, you need to have information, you need to have knowledge. You want food, you want energy, you want to be rich. I've never met anybody who want to be poor. Maybe there are people who want to be poor. I don't think anybody in the world wants to be poor. If you want to be poor, you can learn about poverty. But you can learn about poverty in order to avoid it. You can learn about poverty by avoiding. You can learn about poverty so that you can avoid poverty by learning about it. And like I said from the start, is that the cost of living, if you look at it carefully, you will find that the cost of living arises because of low income, because of poverty. I hesitate to use this word in Britain, in the developed world like America. But there are poor people there. They may not realize it themselves because it's so easy sometimes to understand what poverty, the dynamic of poverty, is quite big. It's so easy. If you have money to buy food, you can go to the supermarket, come to your house like this. There are a lot of things. You have chairs, you have beds, you have fridge, you have everything. You may not realize you are poor, but you see, poverty is about risk. It's not about what you see, what you are experiencing. It's about risk. If you stop working, if the government stop helping by helping the industry to increase the level of pay when you're working, that is going to create a risk. The low pay is a very risky phenomenon. Low pay means, if I mean, imagine if you're being paid £1 million or dollars, US dollar per annum. You're safe. See, you're safe. You have less risk because if you work for 5 years, you probably will have saved about 2, 3, 4 million dollars. Or, but in terms of income, in terms of having access to security, I mean, financial security and material security, you're safe. I mean, that's what poverty is about. Poverty relates to material. The other aspect of poverty, you can explore the arguments. But what I'm talking about when I talk about poverty, I mean money and things like food, transportation, and things like that. Some people can talk about emotional or intellectual poverty. That is also there. People can talk about it. But for it is important that you go to school, you learn like now. If you think you need to know about the cost of living because it's a problem. That if you don't learn about it, then you create something called intellectual poverty, because you don't have the knowledge. You have that knowledge gap is going to disadvantage you. It's going to impact on your physical aspect or even emotional or psychological. So all these factors are linked up together. So if you can illustrate poverty in the way you like. The cost of living is caused by poverty, and that's why I'm trying to explain. Also, in terms of Brexit, like we started the conversation, because Brexit created problem within the economy, and the capitalism is very sensitive to. When I say capitalism, is where private businesses run the economy using the market forces, the market system, and the market forces are very sensitive to crisis. So the cost of living can create Brexit can create a lot of havoc within the economy. So that's why I'm talking about Brexit, and I'm actually saying Brexit contributed to the current cost of living, as well as the war in Ukraine and COVID-19. And maybe in the future we'll also talk about COVID-19 and link it up with uh, the cost of living. And I'm going to talk about these topics uh, in this way. And when I am finished, then I will come back to the UK and look at certain things, policies and programs to deal with the cost of living. I started these videos with the the source of help the government is giving. If you look at the early videos, the qualities are less than what we see now. And even this, we're just trying to improve the quality bit by bit because the program is new. And so, going forward, my plan, having, you know, improve the quality of the program. I'll be looking at specific in the UK, and like I said elsewhere, what you find in the UK, you are most likely to find around the world. So pay attention to that. Go online and look at what the government is doing, what the policy they have, the program they have in the UK. If you are in Africa, especially in Africa, if you have members of parliament, people you elect to go to parliament, speak to them. If you have local leaders, speak to local leaders about the cost of living because it's impacting on the cost of food. Mm, and if you have land, try to talk to your local leaders and find out if the government can help with grants. You know, if the government can buy tractors for every clan in an area, in a region, sub-region of a country. There are regions, there are sub-regions, there are different units of of political and probably cultural um, arrangements. Organizations in terms of maybe clans. Some people can say tribe if they want, or ethnic groups. If these groups and families have land, then they can grow their own food. They can access firewood or charcoal. They can burn charcoal to access energy. They can cut grass to touch their roof, as in and grass touch huts. Huts are small, usually round in shape, but they can be square or rectangle. But they are huts. Huts are small houses. They are grass thatched huts, common in Africa and developing world. They are very comfortable. They are very green, and and they are very efficient. They are temporary, like tents almost, but they last for maybe 10 years, 20 years. But they're very efficient. You use clay to build the walls and the floors. They are very convenient. People can build that and encourage the government to help them. If you have the government helping, you can use bricks and mortar to build the walls, or you can use tiles to build the roof, and you can use solar panel, solar energy in Africa to provide energy. There's a lot of sunshine in Africa. It's no brainer that that Africa still suffer from energy problem. There is land, they can grow their own food. Um, there may be drought, but they can irrigate the land. They can use water pumps. There are lakes and rivers. Rainfalls can be trapped using tanks, water tanks, and filters to filter drinking water. And you can get help from the government or from anywhere. You can start charities, use social media to raise money to buy refrigeration for the village. Every village members, family in the village can access refrigeration, freezers and freezers in Africa to freeze food, like meat, fresh meat, vegetables, and other things, preserve food. And these things can now help. You can use the cost of living as an opportunity to bring transformation. Like I said from the beginning, at the beginning of this video, that every government in the developed world and also government in Africa are now changing their tactics. They used to help to take responsibility for its citizens. Now they want citizens to take responsibilities for their life. That's why even in Africa now, you go to school, mostly parents are the ones to pay for school fees. You find in villages, you have to fend for yourself. Sometimes you go to certain villages, you find only children are in the home. The parents have either died or they have abandoned their children, and because they can't look after them, they can't stay there to see their children suffer. Probably when they leave their kids there at home, and the houses are always really very, very, very bad. They are very basic. They are like shelters. And if it rains, it gets wet. I mean, the whole place, you can't even, it's cold, it's damp. And representing, because, if you go deep into African villages, they build temporary shelters, which means they have to be um, repaired constantly. It needs adults, it needs families, it needs communities. See, the best way for Africa to survive is to really live together, to unite. And now things are changing because capitalism is going to Africa. And capitalism and the market economic system teaches people culturally to live as individuals. There's something called individualism. You don't like in the UK here, people are strangers. I think now in Africa, people are strangers because they don't live together anymore. If you don't live together, it means you're going to be individuals. That's what individualism means. If children are suffering in a home, because you could see it as a form of the the culture coming with capitalism, with the market economic system. The culture is actually selfish. You think only about yourself. Now, parents now, instead of valuing their children, they no longer think of their children because people are changing the way they think. They only think of themselves. So parents are leaving children at home. They just abandon the children. They just disappear, go somewhere else. Whatever they go to do is another matter. But the children are left alone. Sometimes the children as young as 10, 6, they have to look for food at 6, alone, in the home, in the village. Somebody can kill them. Somebody can do anything they like on the kids. It's happening now because the governments of Africa have said everyone for himself, good for us all. And you find a phenomenon in Africa where those in politics, those in power are actually multimillionaires in US dollar. That is capitalism. It's the market economic system. Politics is business, not just in Africa, but also in the developed world. Politics is now business. So it's no longer what you had in the past to say that politics is for the country. There was something we knew then as national consciousness. People used to value their country. They had pride in their country. Now, because we are a global communities, we are global continents, countries, we have exchanged national sovereignty with global sovereignty. That is what globalization means. And globalization is expanding capitalism and also expanding the market economy. There is competitiveness, competition. It's like a jungle. It's survival of the fittest. That's what the market represents. It's like a jungle. The law operates like the law of the jungle. If you are not strong, if you don't really strive, if you don't really push, you're going to be left behind. You're not going to survive. Potentially you're going to die. So the fittest are the ones who are going to survive. That is the system we have right now. So we need to learn about this thing so that we turn from civil societies into people living in the wilderness. Because you see, the market economy is not civil at all. It's literally it's the jungle, law of the jungle, survival of the fittest. That's what individualism means. You don't eat, you die. Nobody's going to feed you. Even if you're a child, you're not a child, you're a child, you cannot eat. Your parent is not going to feed you. Imagine in Africa, even in the UK, even in the developed world, children are born and left on the street. Babies. Maybe they are covered if they're lucky. But that's if they make it. Sometimes children are aborted. They're killed in the womb. They come out dead. They're poisoned. It's called abortion. Sometimes parents don't even want to have children. They use contraception. Contraceptive. Contraceptive is to prevent getting pregnant. Because people think about themselves. They no longer think about each other. Women think about their bodies, their lives. Their bodies, their lives are for themselves. There are people in this country who believe they should be allowed to die. If they want to kill themselves, they should be allowed. Because their life has nothing to do with anybody else. Leave a comment below what you think about this. Because now, more and more, what I want is not what you want, which matters. Your life, you have no right over me. I can do whatever I like with my life. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Should we think about each other? Should we live together? Or as individual, what I do is my business. It's not none of your business. This is the culture of the market, the culture of the jungle. It's not civil. Civil is something say we are our brothers and our sisters keepers. We are a family. What happens to me matters to you. What I cannot decide to kill myself, even if I want to die. Because I know I have people who loves me. They're going to be hurt. Your parents, your brothers, they love you. You're going to do you abuse your life. You're hurting them. You hurt yourself. You're hurting them. This is civil. But the culture of individualism, the culture of the market economic system producing individualism is saying me, myself, and I. This is actually savagery. You kill somebody, you don't feel it. Because you don't love them. You have lost that humanity. That sense of humanity is dying. I'm not saying it is now it's dead totally, but that's where we're heading. That is what is causing the cost of living. Because of our lack of care. If the government, the people who run the government had compassion about other people, other than just themselves, if they were not marketized in their behavior of running the countries where there is wealth everywhere, there would be no cost of living. The cost of living as a crisis can stop next month. Because every rich man and woman of the world say, this is not going to happen. We are going to use our wealth to stop poverty everywhere. We have more than enough wealth. Nobody in the world should suffer poverty except because of selfishness, except because of the problem of marketization. Everything, the way we are trained like psychopaths now. We think like totally deranged people. What the government is doing now, obsession with the market system, is turning humans into wild animals. You see, we are losing our humanity. The beauty of human beings is being lost. You see, we are becoming like animals. Even animals are more compassionate because they fight for one another. But we, deliberately, we are changing the way we think. From being human to being animals. And animals are even better than us. Because animals at least cry if their friends suffer. And so we have a world, the global community of today, which is a jungle, being actually run by the market economic system under capitalism. And that is why there is the cost of living. If the market economy was not violent, if the private sector was not cruel, if the wealthy were not really inhumane, there would be no cost of living anywhere in the world. There would be no poverty in Africa. There would be no violence. Poverty is a form of violence. State violence, social violence, cultural violence, individual violence. We can stop it if we change the way we think. We can stop it if we begin to speak out to the government, to learn. I mean, we need a fresh educational system for the state. People who rule over us should learn peace. They should go back to school. We need to create a new school known as peace, school of peace, school of happiness. Because I said peace leads to happiness. And unless we change our system of value, we cannot achieve peace. So we need to know that we are there for ourselves and for other people also. It's something called compassion, which is now we are actually killing it because of the way we are teaching our minds. We are teaching our children to be selfish and to be cruel, to be violent, to be insensitive. People die, you don't even cry. We are like psychopaths. We are like savages. We live in the 21st century in a world where enlightenment should include compassion. Thank you for watching this video. I've been talking about Brexit. I said Brexit was when Britain left Europe. And I look at the other videos. I'm going to continue with the process perhaps in the next video, or maybe tomorrow or the day after. I'm going to continue looking through the video. I just want to wanted to do this video so that to produce a clearer picture of what I'm trying to do, really talk about Brexit, because these things are connected. And when we're doing a study, we need to really link every perspective of the problem, the culture, the development, and integrating these and looking at incidences or factors such as the Brexit, and do an independent study. Ignore nothing. We live in a knowledge economy, and knowledge is part of our medicine, including healing the cost of living. Thank you. Subscribe to my channel. Click like, share with family and friends. Leave a comment below. Click the notification bell. Thank you so much for your support. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.